The Badgers go to 2-0 behind the player that I told y'all. He's just got to keep shooting.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Badger fans, what is good? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. I'm your host, Ryan Harris, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening live, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're checking out later on the podcast while you're at work, driving to work, while you're mowing the lawn, whatever it is, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. If your first $5 bet hits, visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we got the win. That means we got to play the guy.
This is awesome. It's a good day for me. Come on in here, buddy. Get up on that line.
Listen, so Badgers go to 2-0 in the season, beat Montana State. That's a pretty, Montana State has no name recognition. They're kind of like one of those actors you see in a lot of movies that you don't really know the name of, but every time they're in a movie, you're like, oh, I know that face, and they're really good. Like, they're not an A-list guy, but they're like a super solid B-list. Montana State has won their conference, the Big Sky, the last 3 years. They were a tournament team last year. They have a bunch of guys coming back. They can shoot the ball. They have a system that is modern basketball. I'm not painting this out to be a huge win, but it's a good win. That's a solid team. I had a guy text me before the game started, a guy who's coaching at the D1 level, and he told me straight up, like, hey, this could be an upset. They're sneaky good. I mean, it's a good game. I want to throw this comment up here right away because I think this is a good one. Montana State from Don't Badger Me. Montana State looks more solid than most of these early season non-con games. Could be a surprisingly good win at season end. I agree. I think they have pieces. They play modern basketball. Like, it's not a win that's going to move the needle nationally, but it's also a win that if you had lost this game, there's a lot of people. I know Evan Flood over at Badgers 247 picked an upset, thought Montana State would come in here and win. There's a lot of people who thought Montana State would win this game, and the Badgers got close to covering. They played pretty well. Second half, they kind of they never put it out of reach. And specifically when you're playing a team like Montana State who can shoot the ball, you're never really going to get it completely out of reach. But they held them at arm's length, right? It's like the bigger kid just keeping the little kid away from them with their arm, and they just stiff-armed them and kept them in arm's reach. This is a good win. I want to talk about my players of the game. So every time we do a best recap, we're going to do players of the game, what I liked, what I didn't like. Then we'll get your comments. Again, these are community shows, live reaction. Always better when we win. And honestly, it's kind of nice after that Iowa game to have two Badger wins, right? Like, football coming off a 42-10 loss to a rival, you string two Badgers basketball wins together, and it doesn't even matter who they're against. It just feels kind of nice. So player of the game, Max Klesman, for me. 7 of 15 from the field, 6 of 11 from three, scored 26. Last game, he went 1 of 7. And we talked about it. He went 1 of 7 from three last game, and I specifically said it doesn't matter. If the shots are good, you want him shooting. Because there's some games he's going to go 6 of 11. There's some games he's going to go 1 of 7. There's some games he's going to go 5 of 9. Like, he's got to take shots that he gets, and he did that in this game. And this is why you want Max Klesman shooting the ball. I want to zoom out to a bigger point that I made. I think it through this on Twitter during the game. It is really refreshing, and there's going to be moments this year where this pisses people off 100%. But it's really refreshing watching the Badgers. The shooters on this team have green lights. You can tell they're shooting with confidence. You can tell they've been told to shoot. I give a lot of credit to Greg Gard there. Like, Greg Gard has absolutely evolved as a coach, right? These are shots that Bo Ryan would not want. Some of these shots in transition, pulling up, 2-on-2, taking a three. But these are modern basketball shots. They're more efficient. Greg Gard has empowered these players to shoot the ball. And there's going to be games where people don't like it because they're going to shoot 10 for 32. But there's going to be games that they win. They're going to punch above their weight class in certain games because they're going to hit these threes. And I like that the players are empowered. You can tell that they feel that they have a green light when they're open. And that's how you want, if this team is going to be built around three-point shooting, which I think it needs to be, that's how you want your shooters to act. You want them to act like shooters, which is through 2 games what they've done. I think that's impressive on Greg Gard's part. Like, he's clearly put it into these kids' head, drilled it into their heads. And it's counterculture to what Wisconsin has been for the last 10, 20 years, where it's been an incessant hunt for the perfect shot to the point where you get a lot of late shot clocks. This team is looking for open threes early. They're looking for contested threes early. They're running to threes in transition. I like it personally. I understand it's going to drive some people crazy, but I like it. Two other plays I want to mention in the game, John Tonje, that first half where Wisconsin was kind of punching back and forth with Montana State, they were right there. Tonje was really the guy in the first half that kept us there. 8 for 9 from the free throw line, 8 for 8 from the free throw line last game. This is one of the things we talked about with John Tonje. He's going to be able to get to the rim. He's going to be able to put pressure on the rim. He's going to draw fouls. And when he gets there, he's going to hit shots because he's a pure shooter. This is a big part of what the Badgers need to do this year. John Tonje coming in, getting to the free throw line. I think it's 17 now through 2 games. That's a huge deal. You're getting the other team in the bonus, right? But more importantly, what you're doing is you're showcasing what you can do offensively. John Tonje is a good shooter. You saw Montana State close out on him aggressively. He's able to pump fake, get to the rim, get to the free throw line. This is everything you want from him. So I want to highlight him. And then Kamari McGee. Like, we've talked a lot about this team doesn't have a point guard. I think they do. I think Kamari McGee is that guy. Now, there's going to be moments this year where we're playing a really big backcourt where it's going to be tough for Kamari McGee. I think there's going to be moments where he gets swallowed up a little bit. Really good game today, right? 5 of 7 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3, had 3 assists, 0 turnovers. And every one of those assists, you can go back and think to them. Every one was a high-level pass, driving in the paint, kicking to the corner, John Blackwell, driving into the paint, finding, I think it was Nolan Winter for an easy play. He's playing the backup point guard spot, coming in when the team needs it, and he's playing at a very high level. Also gives the team a lot of defensive ball pressure. This is a really big part of our team. And I think for a guy that was kind of written off, and for a position at point guard that we kind of said, I don't think we got a guy. I think Kamari McGee's a guy. He's not an elite point guard just because he doesn't have that size, but I think through 2 games, you got to like what you've seen from Kamari McGee. The other thing I wanted to point out and just bring up this first segment before we dive into all your comments, we're getting an idea what the rotation is, right? We're getting an idea of what Greg Gard wants this rotation to be. And that was one of the big questions coming into the year. You have maybe 10 guys, right? When you start looking at Freitag and Ilver and McGee and Tonje and Janicki and all these starters. Well, today was basically a 7-man rotation, right? So you have the 5 starters, which is Klez, Blackwell, is Tonje, Winter, and Crowl. And then you had Gilmore and McGee. That was basically the 7-man rotation. Janicki got 2 minutes. Xavier Amos got 4, which I think we need to talk about. And, I mean, so it's basically a 7-man rotation today. Interesting. I think Amos needs to find more minutes. I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. But, yeah, you're starting to get a feel for the rotation of Greg Gard. A couple more comments here that I want to jump into. Will Hanna, great friend of the show, says, I thought Amos, Hunter, and Freitag would be the key contributors, bringing some different things to the court. No way I predict they win 20 without what they've thrown out through games 1 and 2. Yeah, so Hunter's been kind of dinged up. Amos hasn't found it. I think a lot of that's defensively and shot selection. And Daniel Freitag, he's still young, and he's not quite at the point where they want it to be. I think over the course of the year, you're going to see Freitag work more and more in. I really do think that's going to happen, but it hasn't happened through the first 2 games. Badger and Bournemouth, I thought it was a decent game for the Badgers. Lots to improve on, but it wasn't terrible. That's a good summation. I think it's a really good summation from Badger and Bournemouth. Like, defensively, there's issues. And, again, I'm going to talk about in the next segment. Pavel Strelec says defense isn't good. Yeah, defensively, there's issues. And I want to talk about why some of those issues happened and what it led to and how it can still really hurt this team and why it's a bit of a continuation from last year. But overall, going back to Badger and Bournemouth's point, like, it's still a good game. Game 2, against a team that won the tournament or was in the tournament last year, that's won their conference 3 straight years, that has a real coach. They kind of handled them. And for a team that is also finding their footing, this Badgers team is not perfectly gelled. They're mixing in a bunch of new pieces. They lost a bunch of pieces. This is a team that's not picked to do very well this year. To handle a team like this, I think you have to feel pretty good about it. Again, and some of that's based on what was told to me before the game, right? I had people tell me, like, watch out for this Montana State team. They're real. For what they are, right? For a non-power forward type of a team, for what they are, this is a real team. Like, you're going to maybe have your hands full. And I thought the Badgers, again, played pretty well and showed you enough promise where you can kind of believe in parts of this team. I'm not telling you this is the be-all, end-all. It's 2 games in. They're 2-0. I think you can see certain parts of this team that, to me, make sense, and you can see the vision there. I'm excited about it. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about, get into all your comments, and we're going to talk about kind of the big picture in terms of the stats, what we saw from the box score, what we liked, what we didn't like, and Steven Crowl needs to show up. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick break for our friends of the show, and a quick second to say thank you. Our friends of the show today over at Robinhood Gold. Robinhood Gold, did you know that even with Excuse me. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar when you contribute or transfer in from other retirement accounts with 3% match. That's right. No cap on a 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. The offer is good through April 30th. Get started on Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees do apply. And now for some legal information. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC is a registered broker-dealer. Today's episode also brought to you by our absolutely stunning friends over at FanDuel.com. Right now, a $5 bet, if you win, it gets you $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Listen, all of you have been out there. All of you have placed bets, right? You've all been on rinky-dinky websites. When I was in 5th grade, I was trying to start like a betting ring. Like I had a little notepad and I was writing down people's bets. I never paid out because I wasn't a good bookie. Like FanDuel.com will get you all of that actual bookiness, right? They'll actually pay out. Unlike 5th grade Ryan Herrings, I still have probably people out there I owe money to. I didn't know what I was doing, but you couldn't have trusted me. You can trust FanDuel.com. Parlay, spreads, teasers, it's all there over at FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network for any sport you're looking for. And there's a ton of them going on right now. NBA, obviously NFL, college basketball, college football. It's all there over at FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, be responsible, but enjoy it. Spice up your sports weekend over at FanDuel.com. All right, let's jump back into this. I want to get your comments. As always, this is the community show, the reaction show. But I do want to start with this. I have been maybe one of the staunchest Steven Crowl defenders, right? I think it's for a good reason. Like I'm not like he is still, in my opinion, he gets too much flack in general from Badger fans. I still completely believe that. But this wasn't a good enough game for Steven Crowl. And if I'm going to sit here and tell you all the good things all the time that I think Steven Crowl does, we got to be honest with it. You got to get more from Steven Crowl in this game. And there's two things I want to go to here. The first is I didn't love the offensive game plan at times in the first half. Like this team needs to shoot threes to win. I've talked about that a lot. There's a lot of shooters on this team. It's modern basketball, but you have to hit the post more. You have to make more of a concerted effort to go inside, to go outside, right? You're setting up your three-point shooters by hitting the post. You're getting easier looks. I thought we went far too long where we kind of played a little hero ball in the first half. A little too much ISO, a little too much hero ball. And that was with Winter in the court. That's with Crowl on the court. You got to hit your post guys, especially against a team like this where you have a post advantage because they're going to double. And then that's going to open up your shooters for a really good look. So some of this I thought offensively, I didn't love our initial game plan at times. Okay. But there were still moments where Steven Crowl had opportunities to finish stronger. Got to do it. Steven Crowl finished with 6 points, 1 of 4 from the line, 4 rebounds, which several players on the team had more rebounds than Steven Crowl. 4 assists, which is great. That's the part of this offense that we thought would make sense, right? Pitch it into Crowl, let him collect it, let him scan the court. He's going to get doubled, pitch it out, find the right guy. That makes sense. But he also had 4 turnovers, a couple bad ones too. That's not a good enough Steven Crowl game. And again, this is coming from a guy, I like him. I like Steven Crowl a lot. In fact, I think he's a really good player on this team. I think he's underrated, and I think he's a key part to how we want to play offense this year. But you got to be better than that. You got to be a little cleaner than that if you're Steven Crowl. And that's going to hurt you in the Big Ten if this is the version that we get. And I think there's a better version in there. I've seen a better version. Today was just a little off for whatever reason. I also want to point out that I love what Greg Gard has done. I actually really am impressed. For all the flack that Greg Gard occasionally gets, he's completely adjusted. This team is trying to shoot threes. They're shooting in transition. He's given green lights. But you can't completely lose the post identity, in my opinion. And it felt like in the first half, there were too many possessions where we didn't hit the post. So both of those things to me, I don't know, worth watching. They bear monitoring. I'm really curious to go back and rewatch the game because I will do that. I really am curious to see if I'm correct on that or incorrect. All right, let's bang on some comments. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, you guys are incredible. Realist says, did I say Crowl was mid? Poor take, I'll take it. He's good. Crowl's good. Daryl says, can we buy Crowl a wristband that says play like you care? So lax at times. He's good. He really is. Everybody likes to pile on Big Steve, but today wasn't as good as it needed to be today. I agree completely with that. Okay, let's get some more comments in here. Aaron Kennedy, interesting. Do we have a bench? Yeah, I actually think this team is pretty deep, but we only played 7 today. Some of that is Amos, right? Amos is maybe this is not the most athletic team in the Big Ten. Okay, thank you, Captain Obvious, Ryan. This is not the most athletic iteration of what the Badgers have had. Amos is one of the more athletic guys. He's athletic. He can shoot. There's some defensive concepts that I think are what is keeping him off the court, but he's going to have to figure that out because this team kind of needs him. I think this team needs that athletic front court presence, and the only guy that's going to give you that this year is Xavier Amos, because it's just not quite Nolan Winter's game. It's not Stephen Crowell's game. Gilmore's a little undersized if you put him at the 4. I think Amos is a really big component to what this team needs this year, and if he's playing better, that gives you 8. Janicki gives you 9. And that still has Freitag and Hunter off to the side. So, yes, I do think this team has a bench. We just didn't see it today. And some of that is, I think, struggles from Xavier Amos. Don't badger me. I like what I'm seeing from Kamari, though. Yes, sir. Right? Yes, sir. Listen, he played great today. Under control, getting into the paint, finishing at the rim tough, playing really solid on-ball defense. He gives you something a little unique defensively where he can provide ball pressure, hit his 1-3, 5 of 7 from the field. 3 assists, no turnovers. He played really well. Completely hats off to Kamar McGee. I thought he played really, really well today. Daryl said, like the open shots early in the clock, hopefully this reduced the vaunted 6 to 8 minute scoring droughts that we all fear, but expect in the guard area. Yes, Daryl, you are a man. This is like, I don't know if people are making enough of this. I'm watching us in transition, pulling up with 20 on the shot clock. I'm watching us swing the ball cross court and firing a 3 right away. How many times in this game do we get down to that vaunted situation where we've seen for the last 15 years where a Badger point guard pulls it out with 3 seconds left and takes a Hail Mary 3? We're not seeing that. That's a really good sign. It's a sign that these players have bought into the system. Of course they bought into it because people want to shoot. This is more modern. And I think if they keep playing this way, and by the way, once again, they shot, what did they shoot from 3 today? I think it was 50% from 3. Hold on, I got the stats up here. That's not right, is it? Yeah, 50% from 3, 11. Like, this team is good enough shooting 1 through 5 across the board where if they're getting enough threes up, there's some teams they could bury. They could bury some teams if they get enough volume. I don't think they shot enough threes today. But if they shoot threes with volume and confidence, they can bury some teams. And I love that they're getting them up early in the clock. I absolutely love that. Steve Schweitzer said, I doubt this is a tournament team. Yeah, it's going to be French still. Like, as excited as I am from what I've seen offensively, let's get into the defense. I don't think the defense has been particularly good. I thought Montana State missed some open looks today. I thought we got a little lucky. And even with some of those misses they shot, let's talk about the bad. They shot 46% from 3. That's not good. Coming off a game where Holy Cross shot 37%. This perimeter defense has been a problem through 2 games against not the best competition. And then you talk a little bit about how those threes happened, right? How was Montana State hitting those threes? Well, again, I need to go back and watch the game, but there was a ton of dribble penetration. There was Montana State was able to get into paint off pick and roll, off dribble penetration, off dribble handoffs. And what happens when you get in the paint? The defense is forced to collapse. So the defense collapses, and then Montana State would have a shooter on each corner, and they would just pitch it to the corner for an open 3. You cannot give up penetration so easily. Like, you have to be better in your drop coverage. You have to fight over screens a little bit better. You have to communicate better. Because if you're letting teams get into the paint consistently, they're consistently going to have open 3s. That's just basketball. Because this defense and most defenses are geared on, you're going to help in the paint, right? If somebody's getting in the paint, you're going to collapse on them. You're going to dig. And when you dig, you open up shooters. And I thought there was way too much of that today. And it happened a little bit against Holy Cross too, where there's some pick and roll snafus. Teams are getting too many open looks on the perimeter. And there are fans that'll say, well, teams aren't going to continue to shoot 40%, 30%. Well, they are if you keep giving them open looks. That's the thing. Like, you keep giving them open looks, teams will continue to shoot well. And to me, that's the biggest bugaboo through 2 games. And to Steve's point, he's saying, I doubt this is a tournament team. If they don't make the tournament, that's why, in my opinion. It's because they're not keeping people out of the paint and they're giving up open perimeter shots. That's why that's why they don't make the tournament. So to me, defensively, got to get better. There were moments where it tightened up in this game. I thought there were moments where it tightened up in the first game against Holy Cross, but there were too many spots where both those teams were getting deep penetration, right? The pick and roll was working. They were just beating people off the dribble. And once again, they were finding guys in transition, right? Finding open shooters in transition where we had cross matches and we just didn't match up. So got to play better defensively. 100% agree. Well, I guess that's not even Steve's point, but to Steve's point, if they don't make the tournament, I think that's why. All right, we're taking one more quick break here. We're going to come back. All of your comments, plus a few more stats that I found really, really, really impressive from the Badgers today, winning their second game. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. As always, really do appreciate every single person for tuning in. You guys are fam, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at, who's today's second episode brought to you by? Our good friends over at LinkedIn. LinkedIn remains the number one source for all of your hiring needs. Whatever you need to get from as a hiring manager, as a company, if you're looking for a job, it's all over there at LinkedIn. And we talk about this a lot. LinkedIn's about talent acquisition, and we do a college basketball show, college football show that's also about talent acquisition. They go hand in hand. If you're a hiring manager, you got to find the right people. Use LinkedIn. You get the 5-star receptionist, the 5-star wheelman, the 5-star bank teller, whatever it is over at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. I've used it to find a job. My company uses it. They're incredible. They have screening tools to remove all the riffraff, all the rubbish. Keeps them out on the street and in the gutter. That's probably the wrong term. But it keeps them out of the job interview, right? And you can hire the right person, the right time, the first time, which saves you money, saves you time, which is what it's all about. Or at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. Now let's jump back into this conversation here. Keep talking basketball. Badgers are 2-0. That's an exciting time for us. Let's get some comments. Let's get some comments in here. Will Hanna says, not a bad victory at all. Also says this 8-man rotation is not good enough. Yeah, Will Hanna's like a little bit on the positive and a little bit on the negative. Tyler Streeter, we're not athletic enough to truly compete in the Big Ten. We looked equal to Holy Cross and Montana State from an athleticism standpoint. We will live and die from the 3. Crowl and Winter aren't big enough. So I think athleticism is real on this team. That's a real deficit. And Tyler's a great dude. That's a real deficit, the athleticism. I will say that's where Amos, hopefully, and Freitag maybe coming on later in the year can help. Both those guys are plus athletes. Amos getting more minutes, settling into a defense rotation can help. Freitag the same way. But you're totally right. And we've talked about this. This team is absolutely going to live or die by the 3. And there's going to be games where we shoot 18%. And people are just going to be pulling their hair out. They're going to say, this sucks. It doesn't work. But then there's going to be a game where we're playing Illinois or Purdue, and we're going to shoot 43%, and we're going to punch above our weight class. That's what teams reliant on three-point shooting do. So I just kind of want to preempt everybody. There's going to be stretches this year where we shoot really poorly because that's what shooting is. You're going to go on the road and not shoot well, and you're going to lose that game, and it's going to be ugly. But then you're going to get a game at home against somebody you shouldn't beat, and you're going to scorch the net, so you're going to win it. So I would be prepared for some ups and downs, some tidal waves of scoring, and then some droughts. We even saw it a little bit in spurts today. Like you get a guy like Klessman who just goes nuclear. But Tyler's point is correct. This team is not the most athletic team of the Badger era. Keep going here. Dope Badger me. The Tonje ad this offseason is going to be critical. Yeah, he's looked great. He's looked a lot like what I thought he would. You know, he's going to hit open threes and then he's going to drive and get fouled because he's a big body, gets in the paint, 2-foot jump stop, goes up, creates contact. He's a veteran, right? We saw it on a baseline drive today where he drives baseline. He has nothing, pump fake. The guy jumps. He just gets into him and throws something up. That's an NBA veteran move, right? You get somebody off their feet and you just dive into him and throw the ball up and you get 2 free throws. And then the kicker is he's an elite free throw shooter. So not only is he getting to the line, but it's automatic when he gets there. That's a really good pickup for the Badgers. Don't badger me again. We're going to be a good free throw shooting team this year. Yes, sir. Leo, 95% free throw shooting. Let's keep going. Any other comments? Badger man, free take redshirt. I don't think so. I hear the question, but I don't think so. I think I think he's gonna work in as the season goes along. I really do. And he's already played one game. Yeah, like he already got into the last game. Like this is a guy they're gonna need this year. I actually forgot that he ever played the first game. Leo, once again, 97.3% from 3. Brian Axness, Brian's a good friend of the show. Guards looking good. Would like to see more from Crowl. Yeah. This was not a great Crowl game. This is a game Crowl should have been a lot, not even from a scoring standpoint, but just you got to get more than 4 rebounds if you're Steven Crowl against this team. You gotta be tougher on the inside. You got to finish with strength and through contact on some of those interior posts. And the same for Winter, by the way. Winter had a couple of chances where I thought he finished kind of soft too. Against a team that's not that physical, not that big, I want to see you try to finish through somebody. Crowl and Winter. Now that's not really their game, but sometimes you just got to try. You got to impose your will a little bit. Keep going here. Let me see any more comments. I mean, we got a bunch of comments. I'm just trying to pick out other ones that we haven't really talked about yet. Sebastian says, I missed a game, but wanted to catch reaction show. How we looking? We looking like 2-0, Sebastian. We looking like 2-0. Nick Hitchin says, will Tonje get to the line that much in conference play? Probably not. I mean, everything's going to tick down in conference play. But again, what he does translates to the line. He's always been a pretty high volume free throw shooter, and the ability to draw people out on 3-point pump fake and get into the paint. I think that part of it translates. So I'm not going to expect 8 to 9 free throw attempts per game from Tonje, but I think in Big Ten play, he can get 5 or 6 per game, which is still really good. That's still as your third or fourth option, which is what ideally I think he is. Maybe third option. Maybe it's Blackwell, Klesmit, Tonje. I think that's pretty good. But your point is correct. Like, competition's going to ramp up. Nothing's going to be as easy. Also point out there are a couple of moments where Montana State was pressing, and I'm a little worried about how we look against the press against Montana State. What's going to happen when like an Illinois or a Michigan State heats us up, or an Arizona who likes to play up tempo? Those things could be a little scary for us. I'm not completely sure we're able or capable of handling press at a high level. Let's get more comments here. Angelo Cortez says, prediction for 25, get top 10 again and then become a target. People figure us out and we get murdered in the tournament. Man, if this team gets to the top 10, even if it leads to us getting murdered in the tournament, that's a successful year, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah, another one from Cortez. Gilmore was putting in defense work. Gilmore is good today, right? And I'm glad Angelo put that up. Gilmore, a couple really nice passes again, getting into the paint, had a great block, had off a rebound, scored on 2. Like, listen, Gilmore, I know people were really frustrated last year at times with Carter Gilmore. You got to put respect on that name for what he's done in the offseason. He looks much better. And he's legitimately a part of this 7-8 man rotation, and it looks good so far. Also, going back to that UW River Falls scrimmage, he had 3 threes. If Gilmore has some offense to him, like, he's a real good rotational player because he does everything else pretty well. He's passing well, versatile defender, plays hard, hits the glass. If he's giving you some offense, yeah, that's a real dude in the rotation, and I'm here for it. Sorry, it's just some comments I can't put up, but I laugh at seeing. Jackie says, this is a good one. What transfer up from last year do you think we were missing the most? It's Chucky. It's 100% Chucky Hepburn. Listen, I love Tyler Wall. Absolutely love Tyler Wall and everything he did. But the spacing on this team is so much better. And it's just no knock. He just didn't shoot, right? But if you had a veteran point guard on this team, I think this team would be legit scary if you had a veteran point guard. And not just a veteran point guard, but if you had able to start Hepburn, right, and then come in with McGee, I think that makes a world of a difference as well. AJ Storr, I just don't miss that much. I'm just going to be straight up. Like, what he did for this team was great, but I thought he got into hero ball. I don't think he played defense. Listen, let me ask you all right now, who do you like more? Who do you want more on this team right now, John Tonje or AJ Storr? I mean, being honest, who do you want more on this team right now, John Tonje or AJ Storr? It's early. I kind of like John Tonje. I think he gives you more of a complete game, and I think he fits in better with everybody else. So I think it's Tonje. Mark Benson says Tonje as well. Badger Bortmel says Tonje. So I don't really miss him. But listen, this team would be much better with Chucky Hepburn. And I don't even think that's debatable. Even at points last year where I didn't think Hepburn was the greatest version of himself, this team could use that veteran point guard. It really could. Bo Dragon, Tonje's the basketball player. AJ Storr's the ball hog. Yes, sir. All right, we're going to wrap it there on Wisconsin, guys. Appreciate you so much. Badgers are 2-0. Bunch of content coming up this week. Still got Rayfeld Davis. We still got Nicholas Clayton coming up. Dustin Tranel says, thoughts on Blackwell so far this year? It hasn't translated quite perfectly. No, I kind of wonder, and this is again where I just have a hard time. I have a hard time ending the show when I see comments I like. This is a good one because everyone has talked about the Blackwell breakout. I've talked about the Blackwell breakout. I kind of wonder if he's trying to be too much of a point guard and not enough of just a scorer. You're still seeing all the flashes that are there, getting into the paint, shooting the three. I hope he's not thinking too much with too much on his plate potentially, because there's a lot of talent there. And it feels like, once again, going back to the point with John Blackwell or with Chucky Hepburn, I mean, if you had a true point guard next to him, he might be able to concentrate more on just being that scorer. So I hope that it's not a case of he's kind of overthinking the game as he's been asked to be more of that playmaker and thinking that he needs to set people up. Fight's just going to get buckets. And we're going to see. Maybe I'm overthinking it and it's just 2 games into the season. But that's my concern. Okay, let's wrap it there. Bunch more comments again. I appreciate all y'all guys on Wisconsin. Go check out Locked On Big Ten when you're done here. Again, bunch of content coming up this week. And we'll talk again soon on Wisconsin. And thanks so much.